Next up, we have Josh Jaros. Josh is from Montgomery County, Texas, down in the Spring, Tomball, Woodlands area. I met him about a year and a half ago, same time I met Hunter. He's been able to infiltrate the political system in that area and become very involved and made a lot of connections simply because he stuck his neck out there and went and talked to them. I'm not going to get into everything that he does, but here's Josh Jaros. Give him a big hand.
It's good to be here with you this evening. I'm glad that you all could make it and that you'd be part of this. I think this is going to be a groundbreaking event that we're having in Texas right now with this shared parenting event. Thank you for having me. I just want to share with you a quick story. This is about a story about two parents that lived in Montgomery, Texas, actually. A father and a mother lived there. I know a little bit about the story because I've had a little bit of information from both of them. But this mom and dad decided they were going to have a divorce. And of course, you know, anything can happen in a family court situation. I don't know how many of you have gone through the family court personally and thought that perhaps you're going to end up with a good situation, and in the end, things completely went the other way. And maybe you're a weekend visitor with your child now. Here in Texas, 9 times out of 10, dad is that non-custodial parent. But this story didn't go that way. Again, like I said, things can go any way that, you know, you just never know what you're going to get when you go into family court. In fact, that's what my attorney told me when I entered family court. So the mother and the father went in. The mother actually ended up being the non-custodial parent. And a number of years transpired, and the mother really wanted more time with that child. And so that mother went back to court and filed for a modification. It had been a couple of years. And as it turns out, dad was working a lot. And because of that, dad was sometimes leaving that child with a babysitter. Dad was sometimes putting that child, the youngest child, who was only 3 years old at the time, in daycare. And sometimes the boyfriend would watch it when mom worked, or when dad would work late nights sometimes to catch up at the office. And so mom simply wanted more time with those two children that were involved in that marriage to begin with. And went back to court, and the judge said, no, you're not going to get that time. And so as I look at that, I wonder, how have we got to a point in our society where, and especially in Texas, you know, we're a very independent state, and people like their guns, you know, we like to be independent. We love that independence. So how do we get to a point in Texas where the state started deciding what's best for our children? And started deciding that a mom would be the last to be able to see her child before a babysitter, before the daycare, and before the girlfriend that lived with the dad. Would it make any difference if I told you that the roles were reversed? You see, that's not a story about a mom that was a non-custodial parent. That's actually my story, except I switched the roles around. And I want to say, should it really matter? Should it really matter whether it is a dad or a mom that has ended up losing in court right now? I don't think it should. This is not a gender issue. This is an issue where the state is getting involved in deciding what's in our child's best interest, when really all fit, willing, and able parents should be making those decisions. And that decision that should be made should be 50-50 shared parenting. We already know, everybody in this group already knows, it's a common sense thing. A couple weeks ago, I saw Representative Will Metcalf from Conroe, and I was talking with him, and I ask people sometimes, why are they signed under these shared parenting bills? He signed under 453 last year as a co-sponsor. And he looked at me and he just shrugged his shoulders and he said, it's just common sense. You know, everybody knows it is a common sense thing. Children need both parents. That's a good thing. It just seems right, because it is right. Experientially, we know that children that have equal access to both the mom and dad fare better in life. We know that from there's less teen drug abuse, less teen pregnancy, there's less juvenile delinquency, better test scores in school, and we could go on and on. You've all seen the little printouts that we have and stuff that show experientially that children do significantly better when they have equal access to mom and dad. Many of you see that with your kids at home. Many of you see your kids struggling. Lastly, constitutionally, we know it's best. We can talk about due process laws. We can talk about the 14th Amendment. Here at the Republican Convention, one of our planks came from the Supreme Court decision, Troxel versus Crandall, that the state should not interfere with fit parents, and that those parents should be able to decide what's in the best interest of their children, and that they should be considered fit unless there's evidence that proves otherwise. You know, those are constitutional rights. This is what our country was founded upon. So as I look at those things, you know, it's common sense. It just makes practical sense. Experientially, we know from results from studies. Look, we got over 60 recent parenting studies now that show this is best for our children. And as you look at it constitutionally, all these reasons, and I wonder myself, we should just have legislators just busting down the doors to support us. We really should. This is a thing that's about children. And I wonder, you know, do we get frustrated when we don't see that? You know, it's going to be a long time seeing something pass. Representative White already told us, look, this could take a couple sessions for things to pass. And I think that we're looking for a quick fix. We'd love to have a rally. We'd like to, you know, call up our legislators and badger them a little bit. And we've done that. We've done all those things. It hasn't worked up to this point. It's going to be a long haul. We're going to have to dig in. We're going to have to put in the time. That's just a simple fact. We can't call our legislators and expect them to fix this. We need to be visiting them. We need to be calling them, and we need to have the right tone and the right approach when we meet with those people. But you know, we are really the group that has the monopoly on what's best for kids. You know, I think somebody already mentioned, you know, we're just a bunch of angry fathers that don't want to pay our child support, and nothing could be further from the truth. As I look out, I know many of you out here, and you got great stories. You got some stories. And there's a lot of people in the U.S., and you know, sometimes we think we're only a number, but I don't want you to think that you're a number. Each one of you has a personal story, and that story is about the love that you have for your child. And the love that you're here today, that you decide that you want to make a difference. And that is something that is to be commended, and I hope that is something that will energize us as a group. We have the monopoly on that. When we talk about what's best for children, that is our issue. We can look at Title 4D and we can talk about dollar signs. We can talk about attorneys. We can talk about the dollar signs that they see. It's a completely different motivation that they have. When we're talking about us, we are the group that loves children. We're the group that wants to make a difference. We want to see Texas children succeed. You know, a lot of people think about Texas, and we don't have a real great image about of being just real pro-child. Texas ranks 41st right now on child well-being. And a lot of people from states, we have a reputation that if you're a child in Texas, especially with CPS and other issues, it's not a great place to grow up as a child. We're going to change that. I want to make Texas the best state to raise children. I want to see when people think, man, where do I want to live to raise my child? Texas should be that state, and we're going to make it that way. But it's going to take some elbow grease to get there. Mark's doing some great work. I want to talk about Title 4D just for a second. The Title 4D program here in Texas, like I said, in Texas everything is bigger. And really when it comes to Title 4D, in Texas we do it better than anybody else. There is a lot of money flowing through the system. And it's a little bit like cancer. We have a huge program right now for child support in Texas. In fact, the Texas Attorney General just came out with a new statistic. We've hit a new record here in Texas. I believe it was around $4.3 billion right now that the Texas AG collected last month. I believe it was Child Support Month here in Texas. And if you go on the AG's website, and if just the general public sentiment is that child support is a good thing. And look, none of us here are against supporting your child. We all support our children. We just disagree on how we should support our children. If you're a non-custodial parent here, people think that, and the government looks at us as dollar signs. We don't want that. We want to support our children through relationships and time with our children. Yes, money is included in that, and none of us here are against that. But we see the priority of a relationship with our child and about the love that we have with our child and raising that child to be the best that that child can be. But getting back to the AG's office, there's a 1.5 million caseload here in Texas. That's how many cases they have that raise that money. Overall, our administrative costs for that system are $410 million. Now here's the kicker. Texas doesn't have to fund that $410 million. The federal government kicks in 66% of that. I think Mark explained a little bit about that in one of his videos. Imagine if you could hire employees and you only had to pay 33% of their paycheck. Boy, you'd hire as many employees as you could. And this is an example of the government coming in with a program. It looked good. It had great intentions before 1996, before the federal government passed the Work Reconciliation Act. It was to help if there was a child that was in poverty, to lift that child out of poverty by enforcing those child support orders. That was a great thing. That was good. I'm all for making sure that children have economic advantage and seeing that they have their well-being provided for. It's interesting, I was reading the Office of Child Support Enforcement's 2017 preliminary report. Under that, in Texas right now, out of the 1.5 million orders, would you believe that only 3% of those orders have children that are in need, that are on welfare? Only 3%. So when we look at the AG's office right now, this presentation that child support is all about lifting children out of poverty, there's 3%. Well, then the argument is going to be, well, it's the child support necessarily then that is lifting the rest of these children out of that poverty. Well, the problem with that is there is so many arrears right now under this program right now that you can't make that argument. Out of all of those cases, of the 1.5 million cases, only 3% are under current assistance. Only 26% were under former assistance. And the bulk of those child support cases, there has never been assistance for it. You know, Texas has the bulk of the children in the United States. Right now, pretty much 1 out of 10 children in the United States is in Texas. We are the biggest, we're the elephant in the room. You know, I went to the Republican convention, you know, we have a lot of influence, and they often say that whatever happens in Texas, so goes the rest of the nation. I'd like to see us be a leader in there, but it's going to take some elbow grease. It's going to take a lot of motivation from y'all. But the one area, like I got to come back to it again. We are motivated by the love for our children. That's why we're all here tonight, because we love our kids. I got a 5-year-old named Elijah, and I got an 8-year-old named Josiah. And I'll tell you, there's probably nothing I would do for my kids. I love them. I look out and I see parents that have that same love. We look at the other motivations that are involved with this Title 4D, and it's about money. It's about divorce attorneys making money, about the increased conflict, and it's about the state funding a program that is not needed, that is overinflated, and that is infringing upon the rights of Americans to raise their own children. What's the greater motivation? Without a doubt, it is us and our love for our kids. That's why we're going to prevail. Look, this thing is inevitable. It's inevitable that this equal shared parenting bills will take place all across the U.S. We're starting to see that. It's going to happen like a domino effect. I'm excited about it. I want you all to be excited about it. And we have these call to actions that are going to be coming up. There's some cards out there right now. If you're watching this video online, go to Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, sign up on their list Look, we're going to have some calls to action in Texas. We've come leaps and bounds in Texas since this last legislative season. Look, we started with just a bunch of dads working on this. We've got some moms involved too. We don't have lobbyists. We don't have tons of money to spend. We don't have any training. We don't. We're getting some. Mark's helping us out. We're learning a few things along the way. You know what? And we have a lack of respect too. I mean, a dad wanting to see his kids more, you're not going to get a lot of glory for that. That's where we are. We got insurmountable odds. But you need to join in the effort, and I would encourage you, go to Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, sign up on their emailing list. We want to organize that. That's one way that we're going to succeed. I want to share one other way that we can be involved right now. Look, we got 254 counties here in Texas. We got a lot of representatives. We got senators scattered here and there. There's no possible way that myself, that Hunter, Stewart, that any of us right now involved with this movement can effectively reach every legislator across Texas. What we'd like to do is we'd like to get someone in every representative's district, in every Senate district, to be able to start networking with these legislators. That's what we need to do. So after this meeting is over, I want you guys to find, we got people here, talk to us, find out. Please do not leave the meeting today without making a contact and asking how I can get involved. I've talked with some of you before, and you've asked, and I've seen this on our Facebook's accounts and whatnot. Everyone's always asking, how can we be involved? Look, here's 2 ways right there. Sign up for the email listing with Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. Number 2, talk to one of us. Go back and set up a meeting with your representative. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take all of us working together. It's going to happen. And remember, we have the greatest motivation right now, the love for our children. Thank you.